Tell us kind of when you are out there telling this story, what's your favorite thing to talk about?
I mean, the impact on people, right? So we pride ourselves, we're a port. So everybody thinks of us as just moving containers and vessels and all of that. But at the end of the day, we're a job creator and economic engine. And so when you talk about the sheer number of people that are either employed by the port or they work in the supply chain, logistics ecosystem, that's awesome.
We talk about the Jacksonville having this well-rounded economic ecosystem that has a strong government sector, a strong healthcare sector, strong fintech sector, and of course, a strong logistics sector. And port is the anchor of all of these things.
Oh, absolutely.
You've kind of shared with us some of these numbers. I'm sharing the slide up here. You want to talk through some of these numbers as kind of like what the port is providing?
We can tie directly to port activity 30,000 jobs in Northeast Florida.
Mm-hmm.
When you kind of look bigger picture for the entire state of Florida, 258,000 jobs directly tied back to JaxPort activity. When you bundle that all up, it's $44 billion of economic impact. Put that into perspective, not just JaxPort, but you take all of the Florida ports combined, it's 12% of Florida's GDP, making it the third largest sector contributing to Florida's economy.
Most of our audience are either already rental property investors or thinking about becoming rental property investors. Few people think to themselves, oh, I'm going to invest in a city that definitely has a port. But to your point, that is definitely something that you should look at when you're thinking about making an investment. Because if we're talking about the jobs that are coming tomorrow and the opportunity for growth to substantiate your median income growth, to make sure that the rents continue to come in and that population continues to grow and then your home values continue to go up. Port is one of the best economic drivers that's probably never really talked about,
All of the different name brands and things that we use on a daily basis, all of the different name brands and things that we use on a daily basis, we have to be completely transparent on things like U.S. does not make a lot of its own stuff.
Right.
So a lot of the goods are made, in foreign countries and they are brought over the vessel and you have to have a port. Now having worked at a port, investing in and around a city that has a deep water seaport is a smart investment because the population is always growing. Consumers always want more. We need more raw materials to make things. Those are the things that you want to look at. If I want to invest because there's a port there, well, smart investment.
I would imagine most of the cities that you could invest in that have a port are probably not on your list of properties or places to invest because the values of those properties are already too high to produce positive cash flow because of all this population growth and median income growth. So to be able to find a port city that you can still find positive cash flow is a real pleasure and joy.
I think a number that's really important when we think of jobs coming out of the port, you mentioned a number somewhere around like $75,000. What is it?
The average wage for a port and supply chain worker in Northeast Florida is $76,000.
$76,000.
And again, these are jobs that don't require a college education. In fact, a lot of people that get into the port industry are multi-generational. Their dad or mom did it, their grandfather or grandma did it. They're going straight from high school into these jobs and they're earning over time. And it's incredible. And, I wanted to just mention too, so we are 1,500 acres, 3 terminals throughout Jacksonville. Our original headquarters is the Talleyrand Terminal. It's also our smallest terminal. And then we've got a Dames Point Marine Terminal, which is where our cruise goes out of. So we do have Carnival and Norwegian cruising out of Jacksonville. And then we've got Blunt Island, which is our largest terminal, 750 acres. It's all international cargo, so coming from Europe and Southeast Asia and the Mediterranean. But we also have a lot of vehicles. So I didn't talk about this yet, but JaxPort is the largest port in Florida for container.
Okay.
And so when you see the trucks driving down the road and they've got these weird containers on them, we do more containers than any other port in the state of Florida. That puts us 10th nationally on the number of containers that we do. And so to the north of us, we've got Savannah and Charleston, which are bigger ports than Jacksonville. But it's okay because we all fit kind of different need and niche. But, we are a big player nationally. We're the third busiest vehicle handling port in the United States, which is an incredible thing. And again, that's why I say when people drive over 295, they don't realize, hey, this is the 10th largest container port in the US. This is the third business automobile port in the US. Like, how cool is that we've got that in Northeast Florida?
Yeah, that is super cool. You'll notice that downtown is here. And this port falls into one of the JWB strategic neighborhoods, which is the north side neighborhood. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, just to kind of connect the dots and a few exciting things that we've heard so far. We are now looking at where the terminals are, and we talked about the average salary being $75,000 for the average worker who's associated with port activities. Our core neighborhoods, we aim to serve the workforce housing neighborhoods here in Jacksonville. One of them would be the north side, one would be Arlington, which is just around south of Blunt Island right there. And those are two of our four core neighborhoods. Well, our biggest job creator for those two neighborhoods is sitting right here, and Nick and his team right here. And we talked about the average being $75,000 for a worker who's associated with port activities. And if we think about from an economic perspective, why these jobs are so important and the earnings and the income is so important, we can relate it back to the average rent for a JWB rental property. It's about $1,500 a month. And, in property management language, you need about 3 times the monthly rent to be able to qualify for a home. You do the math on that, and $75,000 is great for a $1,500 to $2,000 rent right there. So these jobs are a huge, significant piece of the equation as to why the neighborhoods are so successful for rental property investors.
And we do have a slide on this idea that what that allows us to do. Do you want to talk about this slide here?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we're always tracking things like population and where residents are, right? We all know the line, time is money, right? Well, in the port world and in supply chain, it's how quickly can you get things from a vessel that's docked at the port to a distribution center to the end consumer. And, the trucking world, the federal regulations, drivers can only drive so many hours a day. So essentially what we've got is this yellow kind of map that says, here's how far a truck driver can get in a 1-day drive from Jacksonville. And obviously they can get to Orlando and Tampa, Miami, but they can get to Nashville and Memphis and Atlanta and New Orleans, major population hubs where the big box retailer wants their goods to eventually get to kind of those inner areas. Obviously, Florida is the 3rd most populous state. It continues to grow. But here's something I think a lot of people are forgetting is, that people are leaving the Midwest and in the Northeast United States to come down to Florida, to come down to the Southeast US, which again, talk about, the port activity. Well, when you get population shifts, like right now, the 2 largest ports in the US are LA, Long Beach, makes sense, and New York, New Jersey, makes sense. In 10 years, Savannah will be probably the 2nd largest port in the US because all of those New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Maine, they're moving down to North Carolina, Virginia, Florida, Jacksonville. That means the cargo has to follow. It no longer makes sense to bring cargo to New York, New Jersey. You need to bring it to Jacksonville. You need to bring it to Savannah to facilitate the population growth. And so we're constantly tracking where people are moving to, because where the people move is where the cargo needs to be as well.
Super interesting. You see, from a real estate investor standpoint, you just said a whole bunch of like darling cities, right?
Yeah.
What are you thinking when you see this map here and like the growth of the Southeast, kind of like how we bet on growth markets?
Yeah, it's funny because so many big decisions are made based on population movement and growth. And we're talking about the population moving from, the Northeast to the Southeast, and those ports growing, and those will be the biggest ports at some point in the near future. And it's the same way when it comes to real estate values as well. Rents, home values go up because they are supported by median incomes going up. And it's supported by median incomes going up because more people are moving to the state and more employers come to the state, and there are more jobs and better jobs. And so if you want to put yourself in a position of strength with your investment dollars, follow the population, right? Follow the population. That from a perspective of JaxPort, I would imagine you guys are very in tune with what population is doing here in Jacksonville, and where other ports are probably paying attention to where population is declining or not. They have to come up with some other solutions to be able to maintain. And when it's 12% of the economics of the state of Florida, it's really great to know that it is supported through that population growth. And us as rental property investors will benefit from that.
One of my favorite things to do, other than talk about the port, is bring people onto the port property and just put them on the dock and let them look up and see how massive it is. When you hear a number like $400 million invested in the harbor, or $117 million invested in the power lines to get bigger ships to more containers, we always get asked, like, well, why? Why do you need to do that? Well, there's kind of two things. One, you have to keep up, right? When the vessels get bigger, if you can't handle them, they're going to go elsewhere. We don't want to let them go to competitor ports and leave the city of Jacksonville.
Yeah, you don't want to shrink the capacity of the port by not keeping up with it.
It's a lot about protecting us, but it's also growing.
Yeah.
For every 1,000 moves of a container, it's 10 direct jobs. Okay. Right. So when you start doing that, like 30,000 jobs locally, 258,000 jobs in the state of Florida, that's how the economists create that number. Yeah. So we make all of these investments to create more capacity, to get more containers to come to Jacksonville. So what does that equate to? Jobs, right? So we're talking thousands of more jobs that are created because of these investments.
Everything that I see, right? We have these natural assets that other ports just don't have. The ability for us to reach 98 million people within a day is not something that many ports would be able to do. We have this thriving economy, and we have rising median incomes, and our population is growing. We're the 6th fastest growing population in the country here in Jacksonville. So we've got like all these wonderful things, and we've got this port that's just crushing it. So as rental property investors, we're looking for that edge in our real estate investments. And we look at the spreadsheet and we say, oh, well, the numbers look good, but I want an edge. I want something to take it a little bit higher as far as my return perspective. And we talk about, the best path of progress is to invest in a city that has a huge growth engine. We talk about downtown as being that growth engine. And that is that, when investors look and they say, well, you know what, I want to invest in this property. I want to make sure it's next to this shopping center or this, school district or whatnot. I try to help people see if you really want an edge, if you really want this path of progress that people talk about, hitch your wagon to an economy that is supported by a port like JaxPort, or a downtown that is thriving like we have here in downtown Jacksonville, and revitalizing, and do it before the home prices go up, because this is not new. We are just following a model that works. Right? JaxPort is following a model that works. They understand how to do this. As rental property investors, it's a model that works. When population is growing and you have the type of economics as a base for your market, you're going to see that you're going to get that edge. You're going to get that home price appreciation edge, because it attracts population, it attracts jobs, it attracts growing median income. So yeah, I'm just looking at the similarities between the what we share often on the show and that path of progress, that edge, and helping people see really what that is. It might not always be sexy, right? It's not a flashy new, shop that opens up down the street or whatnot. What's really sexy as far as an edge is JaxPort, right? It's JaxPort. It's revitalization efforts of downtown. And yeah, I'm excited to bookmark this video. This is going to be fun to look back in 10 years.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll be back way before that, and we can
I'd
a few more videos.
love to. I'd love to.